From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10 vision. Reporting tonight, Anne Waodo.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, Senate reverses its recent amendment to the standing orders, effectively reopening the race for key leadership positions in the 11th Assembly. Former President Goodluck Jonathan pledges to engage in broad consultations before deciding whether to contest in the 2027 presidential election. Court convicts former Power Minister Saleh Maman on 12-count charge involving fraud and money laundering amounting to 33.8 billion naira. And World Health Organization says the hantavirus outbreak aboard a cruise ship does not signal the beginning of a pandemic.
On business news, Naira extends gains at the official markets, closing at 1,355 Naira to the dollar.
On sports news tonight, the International Olympics Committee lifts its ban on Belarusian athletes competing in the Olympics, while restrictions on Russian athletes remain in place.
And from the nation's capital, at least 6 persons killed, many injured after an improvised explosive device detonated along the Bagega-Anchor Road in Zamfara State.
We begin tonight at the Red Chamber, where the Senate has rescinded its earlier decision on amendments made to its standing orders over constitutional breaches relating to the inauguration of senators-elect and the election of presiding officers of the chamber. And this followed a motion moved by Senate Leader Opeyemi Bamidele for the rescission and the recommittal of the affected provisions during plenary. Our National Assembly correspondent Gloria Umezuke reports.
Lawmakers in the upper chamber resumed plenary with the amendment of its standing orders topping the agenda, a matter that sparked a clash between two lawmakers on Wednesday. Reviving the subject, the Senate's leader, Senator Opeyemi Bamidele, announced via a motion the rescission of an earlier decision on election of presiding officers.
It's on the need for rescission and committal of Order 2, Subsection 2, and Order 3.1 of the Senate Standing Orders 2023 as amended.
The reversed Order 3.1 had provided that a senator-elect shall not participate in any proceedings of the Senate, including
EON, had any problem with the decisions that were taken with respect to the amendment 2 days ago. What he was expected to do was to bring a substantive motion for rescission to be debated on the floor of this Parliament.
Some lawmakers clarified their positions on the matter.
What is important before the Senate, articulate your position and make sure that you come with specific recommendations. And we'll look at it, whether it is not injurious to the Senate as an institution and to Nigeria.
Why changing it now? Because you think that next time, because last time, this rule of ranking, that's what you require. And it turned out to be the only one from the South, where it was Zone 2. So now if you hear that more senators will be eligible, which will broaden the competitive base. And now he wants to struck it. If other people are afraid, I'm not afraid.
Back in the chamber, another amendment this time of the Electoral Act is passed by lawmakers to speed up the resolution of pre-election disputes. The new Section 29A of the Electoral Act, all pre-election matters involving National Assembly, State House of Assembly, governorship and deputy governorship elections will now begin at the Federal High Court, with appeals going to the Court of Appeal. For presidential and vice presidential election disputes, cases will originate at the Court of Appeal and terminate at the Supreme Court, in line with Section 285 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. The Senate has also passed a 2.2 trillion naira FCT 2026 budget, although there were some observations.
Only with a proviso to the effect that next time, when such a top-notch budget is being presented, it should be accompanied with the revenue profile of the FCT to make it more transparent and accountable.
This bill, having been read a third time, has been passed.
Meanwhile, the Senate has also confirmed the appointment of the nomination of Mr. Rabiu.
As he seeks to lead us for another 4-year term, through think and team, the President has proved his mettle and has shown the world that his capacity and resolve to pull the nation out of the world's limits and pace. Indeed, the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President has reflected on many successes of this administration. The socio-economic impacts have been phenomenal in pushing out positive results. His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has delivered on the mandate of renewal, stability, and national revival. The storms of the past years have not diminished him. They have made the pine zero out of him. He has steered this ship through turbulent waters with courage, taking difficult but necessary decisions to stabilize the economy, restore confidence, and prepare Nigeria for a more sustainable future. Hence, our support and reason for rallying around him. The truth that sets men free, as H.S. Aga said, is most often the truth that men prepare not to hear.
In the meantime, former President Goodluck Jonathan says he will embark on wider consultations to decide whether or not he will contest the 2027 presidential election. He disclosed this in Abuja, where he received members of the Coalition for Jonathan 2027, which is a political group that is asking Mr. Jonathan to contest the election. The former president has also asked Nigerian youth to get more involved in politics, just as he describes voter apathy in Nigeria as the highest on the African continent.
Nigeria have the lowest turnout of elections in every election cycle. We have the highest voters apathy. And it shows that people are not even interested in their elections. We have the worst, the least. I've never been to a country that has the low numbers we have in terms of percentage of voters. I think INEC need to do something about it, need to study, get consultants to look at it, and what is the cause, and do something. As young people, you must be involved in the electoral process. If I ask how many of you have your voters card now, probably 50% of you don't even have voters card. And you're asking me to go and contest the election. So you must be patriotic, you must participate in the electoral process. Yes, you have asked me to come and contest the next election. Presidential race is not a computer game. But I've heard you, and I'll consult widely. But the most important thing is in Nigeria that the young people will have hope.
The reinstated national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, Mr. Shehu Gbagam, has been denied access into the headquarters of the party in Abuja. Efforts by security agencies to enforce the judgment of the Court of Appeal, however, proved abortive, despite attempts by the policemen to disperse the supporters with tear gas. Speaking to journalists after waiting for several hours, Mr. Gbagam, who is resuming office after a Court of Appeal judgment reinstated him as the national chairman of the party, insists that the authentic convention of the party will be holding later this month.
And I'm happy that you are monitoring what is going on. I'm here legally to enforce my entry into my office at the Court of Appeal have done their judgment, and INEC complied, restored my name as the national chairman of the party. You can see the level of recklessness, disrespect to constituted authority. They came and blocked the gates with a vehicle, disrespecting uniformed men that are here to enforce the law. It's a mark of disrespect, and this is clearly how the society is turning into. When you see police personnel with uniform, they came here legally, and then you are challenging their authority, then something is fundamentally wrong with the system. So for me, I will do all that is necessary lawfully, just the way I had all the patience when this thing was happening. I did not attack the judiciary, I did not attack INEC when such thing happened, even though they did not follow the due process.
And staying with party politics, the national chairman of the Zenith Labour Party, the ZLP, Mr. Dan Wanyawu, has expressed displeasure over the call by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, that the party, among other political parties, be delisted from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for failing to win any elective position. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, he says he's shocked at the AGF's decision, despite winning 179 councillorship seats and producing 15 local government chairmen. He insists that the Zenith Labour Party is peaceful, calling on politicians from other political parties to purchase the party's nomination forms and run for various positions.
We are letting people, particularly those who want to contest election, come to Zenith Labour. We don't have encumbrances of any type. I have shown you the certificate of returns of all those that won. 15 local governments and 176 councillors. All you need to qualify with what Constitution says is just one councillor. Doesn't the Attorney General know that? Senior Advocate of Nigeria, doesn't he know that? Why would you go and author such a document to the court? They registered them, they didn't win anything. He has lied. So we expect an apology from Attorney General of the Federation and for him to resign from that office. He should resign from that office. I don't think he's not fit and proper to occupy that office. I don't think he's not fit and proper. Having lied on oath. We are giving you documents. We won. You say we didn't win. They should register us. So resign and apologize and resign.
In part two, after the break, court convicts former Power Minister Salih Maman of a 12-count charge bordering on fraud and money laundering totaling 33.8 billion naira. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Senate reverses its recent amendment to the standing orders, effectively reopening the race for key leadership positions in the 11th Assembly. Former President Goodluck Jonathan pledges to engage in broad consultations before deciding whether to contest in the 2027 presidential election. Court convicts former Power Minister Salih Maman on a 12-count charge involving fraud and money laundering amounting to 33.8 billion naira. And World Health Organization says the hantavirus outbreak aboard a cruise ship does not signal the beginning of the pandemic. President Bola Tinubu has approved the redesignation of the former Minister of Aviation, Mr. Femi Fani-Kayode, as Nigeria's High Commissioner to South Africa. And this comes on the heels of his initial posting to Germany. And this also follows the president's consideration of South Africa as one of the big economies on the continent. Mr. Fani-Kayode had earlier made an application for a redeployment to South Africa 2 days after the initial announcement was made. And we turn our attention to judicial matters now, where Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, Abuja, has convicted the former Minister of Power, Mr. Saleh Maman, over allegations of money laundering offences to the tune of 33.8 billion naira. Delivering the judgment, Justice Omotosho also issued a warrant of arrest against Mr. Maman, who was absent in court. The judge then adjourned the matter to May the 13th for the defendant to be sentenced. The News at 10 continues now as we head over to the nation's capital, Abuja, where Millicent Walker is standing by. Over to you, Millicent. Millicent. Okay. Hello, Millicent. All right, I guess we'll come back to Lagos to continue with this. We turn our attention to security matters now, where 6 people have been reportedly killed in Zamfara State, while 6 others sustained injuries following the explosion of an improvised explosive device along the Bagega-Anka Road in Anka local government area of the state. Residents say the incident occurred at about 9 a.m. on Thursday when a commercial vehicle conveying passengers ran over the explosive device, allegedly planted by suspected bandits operating in the area. Confirming this incident in a telephone interview with Channels Television, the spokesperson of Zamfara State Police Command, DSP Zaid Abubakar, says the incident command explains that the incident immediately deployed its explosive ordnance disposal team at the scene to secure the area and prevent further casualties. The legal advisor of the National Human Rights Commission, Mr. Hilary Ogbonna, believes that press freedom remains a critical pillar for the protection of human rights, democratic governance, and national security, warning that societies where journalists are silenced are often vulnerable to instability. He stated this in Abuja at the 2026 World Press Freedom Day, organized by the Commission in partnership with the German agency and the Center for Journalism Innovation and Development. Mr. Ogbonna, who represented the Executive Secretary of the Commission at the ceremony, emphasized the need to guarantee the safety of journalists and uphold the freedom of expression as enshrined in democratic principles and international human rights conventions.
The right to press freedom, right to freedom of expression and the media remain a cardinal pillar for the achievement of peaceful, inclusive, and democratic societies. A society where journalists are intimidated, censored, attacked, or silenced cannot truly claim to be democratic or secure. Press freedom is not an abstract ideal, it is a practical necessity. For national development and sustainable peace, the media serves as the conscience of the society. Through investigative reporting, public education, and civic engagement, journalists expose corruption, amplify the voices of vulnerable populations, promote transparency, and hold institutions accountable. In conflict and insecurity situations, responsible journalism can help counter misinformation, reduce tensions, and promote social inclusion. At the same time, we must acknowledge the increasingly difficult environment which journalists operate today. And this is not just in Nigeria, but across the world, which include arbitrary arrests, threats, unlawful detention, digital surveillance, cyber attacks, and sometimes even extrajudicial killings.
To health matters now, the 2026 Vaccination Week Awareness Campaign is underway, and this is to help promote vaccines as a cost-free, effective tool for protecting public health. Leading the campaign, the Executive Director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Muyi Aino, says the administration of President Bola Tinubu under the Renewed Hope agenda is committed to ensuring that no child dies from vaccine-preventable diseases. Dr. Aino says the agency will continue to engage Nigerians through different platforms.
We continue to work with all Nigerians to make sure that children everywhere are reached. The President Bola Ahmed Tinubu government, as part of the Renewed Hope agenda, believes that no child's life should be allowed to be taken by vaccine preventable diseases. As well, the president, as part of his agenda for us, has introduced even more useful, more helpful tools in the course of this administration. The human papilloma virus vaccine has been rolled out, and through that, we have over 16 million teenage girls in Nigeria today that are protected for life against the human papilloma virus and cervical cancer. The measles rubella vaccine campaign, we were able to reach 102 million over that children 0 to 14 years old in Nigeria, and that is an incredible number. And we can all see that already in the impact in reduction in outbreaks, in reduction in debilitating disease.
The Kaduna State government has entered into a partnership with the Nigeria Governors Forum, and this is part of efforts to improve food security and boost economic growth. The partnership, which was signed in Abuja, is aimed at ramping up production of rice in Kaduna State. The state government and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime has also perfected plans to hold a multi-stakeholders meeting to combat drug abuse and trafficking in the state.
Issues of food security and economic development is the focus of this meeting between the government of Kaduna State and representatives of the Nigeria's Governors Forum. With an endorsement of the forum's agri-business investment program, the governor pledged to institute and chair a state rice development council to promote rice farming in the state.
The major produce that crops that everyone really certainly look out for, whether in Nigeria, there's no any crop better than rice in terms of demand in our country, and it's important that you look at the gap and the deficit between what we produce and what we consume.
According to the forum, the program will strengthen governance, improve implementation, and build credible pipelines that can drive sustainable agribusiness growth.
The team have been to Kaduna State, and they've also, engaged in the diagnostic studies, which I'm sure they're going to also, the program manager will talk to a number of the things that and the challenges that, are liable in Kaduna. But we're really, really delighted. Kaduna is one of the leading, if not the leading states in the country as far as ramping up rice production is concerned.
Meanwhile, the state government and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime also met to perfect plans to hold a multi-stakeholder summit on combating drug abuse and trafficking.
Thank you. Since you appointed,
the parties will be collaborating on how to advance care for patients with mental health issues and combat drug trafficking and addiction in Nigeria's northwest region.
We will work with you to ensure that we certainly organize this summit on drugs abuse, not only in the northwest, but in the entire northern Nigeria. That is our approach, and that's our focus.
We are prepared to support Kaduna leadership in advocating within the Northwest government to Governors Forum for a dedicated drug and mental health annex to the regional security framework, hosting the first ever Northwest Government Summit on Drug Abuse and Security under your leadership. An initiative of Kaduna has already been identified as the natural convener for that.
The state government is hoping that these partnerships will improve governance in the state and deliver dividends to the people of the state.
The House of Representatives has resolved to investigate the alleged debt owed to the federal government of Nigeria by state and non-state actors, agencies and parastatals within and outside Nigeria. And this followed a motion sponsored by 6 lawmakers stating that the federal government is striving to pay its own debts while it is being owed. The House is worried that failure to recover these debts will worsen the government's revenue challenges and encourage continued retention of the funds, negatively impacting the economy.
The House recalled that as at 30th September 2025, Nigeria's total public debt surged to 155 trillion 29 billion naira, driven by increased domestic borrowing and currency depreciation. The debt portfolio composed of over 53% domestic debt and roughly 47% external, with debt servicing consuming a significant 47.85% of government revenue in the first 9 months of 2025. House note that the first COVID-19, most countries around the world, including Nigeria, had recourse to borrow and deploy other monetary policies tools to deal with economic challenges. For example, quantitative easing, amongst others. Some of these tools have been effectively and pragmatically deployed by the current administration. A notable effect is the stable and strong position of the Naira over the last 15 months. Aware that while the federal government has been diligent in servicing its debt, less attention has been placed on debt recovery as tool for show off of the revenue profile of the federal government of Nigeria.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Naira extends its gains at the official foreign exchange market, closing today at 1,355 against the dollar. And that's in business news. Please join us again. Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. The federal government is deepening its partnership with local government chairmen to strengthen social protection deliveries across the country. The National Program Manager of the National Social Safety Nets Coordinating Office clarifies the new partnership at a stakeholders' engagement with local government chairmen in Abuja.
The National Social Safety Nets Coordinating Office and the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development are hosting this stakeholders engagement with chairmen of local government areas in Nigeria.
I think the applause should be louder because he walked in here right on time.
The objective is to reinforce the role of local government chairmen in driving social protection delivery and eliminate ghost beneficiaries.
We are building a system that ensures no vulnerable household is invisible, no intervention is misdirected, and no Nigerian is left behind. This effort requires partnership. It requires alignment between federal, state, and local governments.
The National Social Register remains a central pillar of this architecture. It provides a credible and veritable basis for identifying poor and vulnerable households and ensuring that interventions reach real people and not ghost beneficiaries.
The Social Safety Net Coordinating Office is integrating the National Identification Number to ensure that interventions get to targeted audience, and the role of local government chairmen in driving this initiative is at the core of the conversations.
Chairmen of local governments must own the ultimate end. They are the chief executives of the local government. Ward councillors work with them, even though ward-based arrangement will be put in place. But the most important administrative officers or executive is the local government chairman.
As Nigeria continues to strengthen its social intervention systems, it is important that local governments are not viewed merely as beneficiaries of policies, but as active partners in planning, implementation, monitoring, evaluation, and accountability.
The governor of Zamfara State is a special guest of honor. He underscores the important role of local government chairmen in social deliveries.
The ongoing integration of the National Identification Number (NIN) with the National Social Register represents a major step towards strengthening credibility, reducing duplication, enhancing transparency, and improving the overall efficiency of intervention delivery system. Therefore, National Social Protection Framework must partner local government leadership as well as in implementation.
The integration of the National Identification Number into the National Safety Register is part of an ongoing reform to strengthen transparency and accountability in the delivery of social protection for the over 77 vulnerable individuals across the country.
To infrastructural development now, the governor of Enugu State, Peter Mba, says that his administration is working towards the installation of a 660 megawatts coal-fired power plant by the month of July this year, and this is to help address the key power issues in the state. The governor disclosed this during a courtesy visit by members of the organized private sector at the government house in Enugu, where he also explained that the power project roadmap is part of a broader initiative to help provide stable and affordable electricity across the state.
I'm pleased to inform you that in July we're going to be breaking ground. We're going to be installing a 660 megawatts of a coal-fired power plant. And the outlay in terms of time is about 18 months. In 18 months after July, we're going to commission that coal-fired power plant. What it means is not just that you have access to electricity, but you're also going to have affordable electricity. It's going to be by far the cheapest electricity in the country. The interesting thing about our coal is that we have the best quality of coal in the world. We don't have anywhere in the world where the quality of coal compares to ours. Our calorific value is over 7,200. It doesn't exist anywhere, which is good for electricity production. Our sulfur content is less than 0.5%. With 1%, you're happy. But this is 0.5%. It doesn't exist anywhere. Not in this country. The only country that comes close is Japan, but it's still better than what you have in Japan.
Well, the Kebbi state government has also spent over 7 billion naira to install solar-powered streetlights across the state within the last 3 years, and this is to help improve the power situation in the state.
In Kebbi, the Kebbi state capital has long grappled with infrastructural deficits. However, in the last 3 years, the city has witnessed notable improvements, particularly in road networks and the installation of solar-powered streetlight systems.
Good one.
As part of the 3rd anniversary of the administration of Governor Nasiru Idris, the State Commissioner for Fiscal Planning and Urban Development, Mr. Hayatu Bawa, is briefing journalists on the achievements recorded by the ministry in the last 3 years.
Kebbi happens to have quite a lot.
He explained that the state government has invested significantly in giving the capital a facelift, including the procurement and installation of street lights.
Upon assumption of our office exactly 3 years ago, the Orangondo administration set out to deliver a comprehensive infrastructure agenda spanning virtually all sectors. The priority areas identified included the upgrading of township roads, rollout of solar-powered streetlights across the state, including the capital, Birnin Kebbi, which needed a facelift after a long period of time. The expansion of single-lane roads in major towns, especially Birnin Kebbi, again. The clearing of drainages to ease water passage and address recurring flooding, which Kebbi happens to have quite a lot.
The infrastructure intervention by the state government extends to other parts of the state and not just the state capital. The commissioner explains that the intervention is part of a broader infrastructure agenda aimed at modernizing urban centers and improving the quality of life for residents.
We also did in Argungu, and currently we are doing in other local governments, Zuru, Augi, Bunza, Yauri, and Kokobese, about 2,800. It is important to note the state capital, being the gateway to the rest of the state, was given priority because it represents the pride of all indigenes and the primary lens through which the state is viewed.
The state government has developed a Benin-Kebbi metropolitan blueprint, which the commissioner says will soon be unveiled.
And from infrastructural development, let's turn our attention to the world of business. Will Ibong is standing by. Over to you, Will.
Thank you, Anne. On business, the Naira has strengthened further the Nigerian foreign exchange market, closing today at 1,355 Naira 85 kobo to the dollar, according to the Central Bank of Nigeria data. Now, the latest MFM rate reflects an improvement from levels seen earlier this week as the currency continued to trade within a relatively stable band at the official market. Now, analysts say improved dollar liquidity, sustained central bank interventions, and moderate demand pressures are helping support stability in the forex market. But market participants are also closely watching crude oil prices, external reserves, and foreign exchange inflows for further direction on the Naira. Now, following Jim Ovia's retirement as chairman of Zenith Bank and the appointment of Mustafa Bello as his successor, attention is turning to succession planning across Nigeria's banking sector. Speaking on Business Morning, CEO of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Muda Yusuf, described the transition at Zenith Bank as a strong sign of growing corporate governance maturity beyond regulatory compliance.
You know, there's a prudential dimension to it. There's a regulatory compliance issue. So this is partly a compliance issue. Secondly, it shows that once you have a system that is running and running well, I mean, you don't worry so much about whether anything will go wrong. And that is not to say that, you know, the new leadership doesn't have the competence. The new chairman, of course, has been on the board for close to 10 years. This is an institutional issue, and once you build something on a very solid foundation, and that is what Mr. Jimovia had done. He has built a bank on a very solid foundation with very strong fundamentals.
Speaking of strong fundamentals, the Nigerian Exchange Group and the Central Securities Clearing System say Nigeria's capital market will transition to a T+1 settlement cycle from June the 1st this year. And the move makes Nigeria the first African market to adopt a one-day settlement cycle for equities after moving from T+3 to T+2 last year. The T+1 cycle will apply across the NGX, NASD OTC Securities Exchange, and Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange. CSCS says testing has been completed, while the SEC says the transition could pave the way for future same-day settlements. Now we head to the domestic equities market now, which closed lower in the penultimate trading session of the week as investors intensified profit-taking. John Mekwa tells us more.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, today, more than what we gained yesterday is what investors took out of the market at the close of trade. And it was mostly on Dangote Cement. Dangote Cement today, which opened at 1,040 Naira, closed at 989 Naira 10 kobo at the close of today. Well, but there are other factors that have led to this red color that we have at the NGX. We look at the counters and we see banking is down more than 1%. Rather, GTCO is experiencing it. Access Co, you know, since that rule that came from the CBN that they have to do with some of their international assets, we've seen investors are not so happy about that. So that's why banking is down. Consumer goods, however, on the green side. side, 0.10%. Not so much. Oil and gas has recovered also. But all of this, they were not enough to salvage the market today, because a whole 909 billion naira is what investors took out. That's more than 1% in the red for the all share. And then we even lost the 240,000 level, closing at 239,734.61. And here at 153.77 trillion naira. So it's once again the victory to the bear, the second for the week.
Thank you, Ini. Whilst our investors are making money, we hope for a rebound tomorrow. Let's now check how major global markets closed today. And that's business news. I am Will Ibong. It's back to Anne for more on the news at 10.
Thank you, Will. Outside our shores, UN Health Agency has dismissed pandemic fears regarding a hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship, MV Hondius, near the island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. According to Maria Van Kerkhove, an epidemiologist at the World Health Organization, the situation differs from the COVID-19 outbreak 6 years ago as it spreads through close, intimate contact. Let's now join Simon Pusey with more international news in Around the World in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
Health authorities are racing to trace dozens of people who disembarked from a hantavirus-hit cruise ship on the island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. The operator of the Dutch vessel said 29 passengers of at least 12 different nationalities left the MV Hondius on the 24th of April. The Dutch government gave a different figure of 40. A 69-year-old Dutch woman who later died in South Africa was among those. 2 other people died on the ship, which set sail from southern Argentina a month ago. Their deaths are now under investigation.
Yeah, our concerns are mainly right now to really get procedures in place for the safe disembarkation of the passengers. We're working intensively now with the affected member states, with partners, with the World Health Organization to set up procedures which are suitable for this situation.
A protest up there and a grief down here. And my beautiful sister, who always seems to be on this side.
Emotions ran high as Australians across the country gathered to remember a 5-year-old girl who was allegedly murdered in the Australian outback. The body of Kumanjayi Little Baby, as the child is now called for cultural reasons, was found on the 30th of April, days after she went missing from the camp, sparking an outpouring of shock and anger across the country. Vigils were also held in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Darwin, Canberra and Adelaide, as well as many other smaller towns. Attendees showed up in pink clothes and listened to speeches from members of the indigenous community. 2 former Chinese defense ministers have been handed suspended death sentences on corruption charges. A military court sentenced Wei Fenghe and Li Shangfu to death with a 2-year reprieve. It means their death sentences will be commuted to life imprisonment after 2 years, without the possibility of sentence reduction or parole. Both men were found guilty of bribery and all their personal assets were confiscated. Democratic Republic of Congo's president, Felix Tshisekedi, has said he may consider seeking a 3rd term in office when his mandate expires in 2028. He said, however, any extension of his presidency would only be done by consulting the people through a referendum. The law allows a maximum of 2 terms. He added that the elections may not be held on schedule because of the conflict in the east of the country. M23 rebels last year seized control of swathes of the north and south Kivu regions, including the key cities of Goma and Bukavu. Israel has attacked Beirut for the first time since it agreed to a ceasefire in the war with Lebanese armed group Hezbollah. putting further pressure on a deal that has failed to stop the conflict. The airstrike hit the city's southern suburbs where Hezbollah is based. Images posted online showed large flames and at least one building heavily damaged. In a statement, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he had personally approved the strike, which targeted a commander of the group's elite Radwan force. Local media say members of the unit were meeting when the attack happened at around 8 p.m. local time. A US judge has ordered the release of a document purported to be a suicide note written by convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein a month before his death. Epstein's former cellmate claims he found the note tucked into a book after Epstein tried to kill himself in July 2019. Epstein was found dead in his cell a month later. A scan of the note in the court document shows a handwritten sentence saying, "They investigated me for months, found nothing. It is a treat to be able to choose one's time to say goodbye. What you want me to do, bust out crying," it continues. "No fun, not worth it." The note amounts to only 7 lines of text, leaving uncertainty over its purported meaning. And Meghan has shared a previously unseen photo of Prince Archie as a baby sleeping on Harry's chest to celebrate his 7th birthday. The Duchess of Sussex shared the image on Instagram along with a snap of Archie on the beach holding a stick beside his younger sister, Princess Lilibet, who is due to turn 5 next month. The post is captioned, "7 years later, happy birthday to our sweet boy," followed by a heart symbol. Archie, the first child of Meghan and Harry, was born in 2019 in London. He is the 6th in line to the throne, while Lilibet is just 1 place behind him.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you very much. Let's delve into the world of sports now. Let's begin with updates from the just concluded games in the UEFA.
All right, thank you, Anne. And for the updates, Captain John McGinn scored twice as Aston Villa overwhelmed Nottingham Forest 4-0 to win their All-England Europa League semi-final games. Trailing by a goal from the first leg, Villa dominated at Villa Park. Oli Watkins scored after 38 minutes. Emiliano Buenda put the host ahead on aggregate with a 58-minute penalty before McGinn struck twice to ensure that Villa reached their first European final since winning the European Cup in 1982. In their first final since losing to Manchester City in the 2020 League Cup, Villa will be firm favourite against unheralded Freiburg, who are 7th in the Bundesliga. Meanwhile, Freiburg beat Braga 3-1 in the second leg of their semi-final to seal a 4-3 aggregate victory. Braga won the first leg 2-1 last week, but had Mario Dogeli sent off early in Germany. Freiburg took full advantage with Lucas Kobler scoring twice and Johan Mazambi also on target. Paul Victor pulled one back for Braga, but Freiburg held on to reach the club's first European final. The IOC has lifted its ban on Belarusian athletes competing in the Olympics, although restrictions on Russian athletes remain in place. Competitors from Russia and their allies, Belarus, had been banned from international competition following Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, although some were permitted to compete as neutrals. This new policy should allow for a Belarusian delegate to compete at the Los Angeles Summer Olympics in 2028.
After our first executive board in September, and then again the Olympic Summit, neutrality and our remit is sport, right? And we've got to figure out what does that mean? And I think we're doing that, and I think you can all see that we're doing it. And we made it very clear that we want all athletes to be able to participate. And so this decision, I believe, and the executive board believes, shows that. When it comes to the Russian Olympic Committee, there has been some very constructive exchanges. But the difference, the Belarusian National Olympic Committee was never suspended, and they've always been in good standing. The Russian Olympic Committee is still suspended.
Coco Gauff says she could 100% see players joining Arena Sabalenka's call for a French Open boycott if the dispute over Grand Slam payout is not resolved. Sabalenka and fellow number one Yannick Sinner were among leading players, most of them ranked in the top 10, who issued a statement on Monday expressing deep disappointment over the French Open prize money, which was increased by about 10% for an overall pot of 61.7 million euros, with the total amount up 5.3 million euros from last year.
To move as one and collaborate, then yeah, I can 100% see that. I mean, it's not about me or just about the future of our sport, and also like the current players who aren't getting, I guess, as much benefits maybe as some of the top players are getting when it comes to just like sponsorships and things like we're making money off court. But when you look at the 50 to 100 or 50 to 200 and how much money each slam makes, it's kind of unfortunate where the 200 best tennis players, living paycheck to paycheck.
That's sports. As back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. The Senate has reversed its recent amendments to the standing orders, effectively reopening the race for key leadership positions in the 11th Assembly. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has pledged to engage in broad consultations before deciding whether to contest in the 2027 presidential election. The court has convicted former Power Minister Salih Maman on a 12-count charge involving fraud and money laundering amounting to 33.8 billion naira. And the World Health Organization has stated that the hantavirus outbreak aboard a ship does not signal the beginning of a pandemic. That's News at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawode. From all of us here, it's good night.